about to spar, before I was about to spar Tank, he was sparring this big boy.
A heavyweight.
Heavyweight boy. And Tank hit that nigga, he hit him so hard that he was on the top of the rope just like this.
To keep the speed, Gervonta Tank Davis, if he put on the right weight, put the right weight on, and have the lean muscle right, he can look fantastic somewhere in the mid 150s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake Paul.
In never-before-seen footage that's left the boxing world stunned, Gervonta Tank Davis is seen reportedly dropping a heavyweight sparring partner during preparations for his highly anticipated fight with Jake Paul. The leaked clip captures the essence of what makes Davis such a terrifying force in the ring: his lightning-fast precision, explosive timing, and the kind of knockout power that can end a session in a single exchange. As soon as his boxing analyst Showbiz the Adult recently weighed in, making a bold prediction that Gervonta Davis will enter the fight around 154 pounds, a weight that, according to him, suits Tank perfectly. He dismissed critics who argue that Davis is too small for Jake Paul, reminding everyone that Tank has long been comfortable walking around that size outside of fight camp. Showbiz even mentioned that Davis has trained at 160 pounds before, proving that this isn't unfamiliar ground for him. He emphasized that Davis has years of experience sparring with larger, stronger fighters, using those sessions to fine-tune his timing, reflexes, and defensive awareness against heavy hitters. That constant exposure to power and pressure has built an unshakable calmness in Davis's style. Showbiz believes that combination, Tank's explosive power, technical brilliance, and sharp counterpunching gives him a decisive advantage.
With 50s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake Paul. And dare I say it, I think that's the right thing for him to do. Why? I've been saying this. Number one, fighters need to start fighting closer to their walk-around weight. They're just healthier that way. They're just better and healthier that way. I mean, I know it's probably surprising them too. Like, that was the best I've seen Terrence Bud Crawford. Lamont Roach, he's fighting Pitbull at 140, coming from 130 and a pit stop at 135. You have Shakur Stevenson talking about fighting Teofimo Lopez. They're very close to making that fight at 140. And I think all of them would look their best there, especially Roach, where he ain't knocking nobody out down there at 130. But I bet you he'll be swatting far more at 140. Gervonta Tank Davis, I think, just like the others, fighting closer to your walk-around weight is just going to be one of the better performances for Gervonta Tank Davis. He's going to learn a lot about his body, he's going to learn a lot about himself, and where he should campaign moving forward. Maybe even meeting Roach in that rematch at 140 himself. Also, another reason why I think it behooves him to come in knocking at 160 pounds is because of Jake Paul. It's not like Tank is going to dodge every punch Jake Paul throws, all right? Some of those are going to land, and more than likely it's going to land on his guard. Tank is going to have his guard up. We need for him to be solid enough, his foundation and his base solid enough, so when Jake Paul hits him with those shots, he doesn't go flying over.
Reports from inside Davis's camp confirm what many suspected: Tank has been sparring exclusively with bigger opponents leading up to the Jake Paul showdown. But this is nothing new for him. From the earliest stages of his career, Davis has sought out challenges from heavier fighters to test his adaptability. Those sessions shaped the fighter he is today, one who relies not just on power, but on surgical accuracy and patience. His ring IQ allows him to read larger opponents like open books, turning their physical advantages into openings. To Davis, size is just another obstacle to outthink. In the latest training footage, Davis looks like a man completely locked in, leaner, sharper, and more focused than fans have ever seen. Every punch he throws is delivered with purpose, a perfect blend of power and precision that comes only from years of relentless discipline. His footwork glides effortlessly, his rhythm calculated and deadly. Observers describe his movements as controlled chaos, calm yet violent, beautiful yet brutal. The intensity in his eyes tells the full story. This isn't a man training to make a statement, it's a man preparing for war. Boxing analysts have taken notice, commenting that Davis's conditioning looks the best it has in years. They describe him as being in prime form, combining speed, timing, and unmatched ring control. This new version of Tank, they say, might be the most dangerous one yet. The upcoming fight has sparked one of the sport's biggest debates. Does Jake Paul's size give him a real advantage? Some argue that Paul's naturally larger frame could pose problems for the smaller Davis. Others, however, dismiss that narrative entirely, saying Tank's elite skill set and fight intelligence will erase any physical disadvantage. True fans of the sport point out that Davis has always sparred and fought men heavier than himself, often dominating them with ease. They argue that boxing is not a sport of muscles, it's a sport of timing, discipline, and intelligence. Tank's defensive awareness and counterpunching mastery make him nearly impossible to read. His team remains confident that Davis's ability to adapt under pressure will allow him to turn Jake's size against him. For Gervonta Davis, this fight isn't about showing who's stronger. It's about showing who's smarter, proving that in boxing, skill beats size every single time.
Is happening. WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Davis, who's unbeaten in 31 professional contests, takes on the self-proclaimed problem child Jake Paul, one of the most influential and marketable global personalities. Paul and Davis square off in Miami after doubts around the fight being sanctioned in Georgia triggered a change in venue. Neither fighter can weigh more than 195 pounds. The weight is perhaps the most surprising factor. Paul has boxed most of his career around 200 pounds, the cruiserweight limit, but did tip the scales at 227 pounds when he faced off against Iron Mike Tyson last year. Davis, much smaller in stature, competes at the 135 pound mark and has also won world honours at super featherweight.
And despite some discussions about possibly dropping down to 10 ounces, the pair seem set to wear 12-ounce gloves.
And in terms of distance, despite the exhibition tag, the fight will play out over 10 3-minute rounds with 3 scoring judges at ringside, but the result will not be officially recorded on their professional records.
Boxer Lamont Roach has recently made headlines after expressing discontent toward Gervonta Davis, hinting at unresolved tension between the two. His comments have stirred debate, with many analysts noting a tone of bitterness and frustration. Some suggest Roach's remarks stem from jealousy more than genuine rivalry, envy over Davis's skyrocketing fame and financial success. Once upon a time, the two shared mutual respect, but now Roach's words seem to carry a personal edge. Commentators explain that money and fame often turn professional relationships into emotional rivalries. While others get caught up in gossip, Davis remains unmoved. He doesn't retaliate or feed into drama. Instead, he channels all his energy into his preparation, staying silent, staying disciplined, and letting his work in the gym do all the talking.
Rip, the question is direct. Reportedly, Tank's gonna make $40 million around there to fight Jake Paul. Would you do the same thing if you were in the situation? And he's like, actually, this is what I explained before. You're beating around the bush. It's really a yes or no. I would do it. I would take the 40 mil, or I wouldn't take the 40 mil. But let's listen to this long, drawn-out explanation.
There's about $40 million that he's going to get paid. If you were in his shoes, wouldn't you do the same thing?
See, now, this is something that I explain and express, and I hope everybody gets. That opportunity is an opportunity that you probably cannot pass up. But it's about how you handle it. It's about how you go about it. A lot of people don't know they actually exercise his rights to the rematch, so that contractually binds us to a fight. You cannot breach that unless you do what you have to do to handle the business to be like, okay, well, we mutually agree to let you move on and or swindle around and fight Jake Paul for this money. If you think I'm going to sit back by the wayside and sit there and be like, well, even though I'm contracted to fight this guy for this amount of money on this certain day, I'm just going to sit here and be cool with, oh, he might not ever fight me, and he's going to go fight and get paid and get this money, and I'm not supposed to get anything.
Despite his accomplishments, many experts argue that Gervonta Davis still doesn't get the credit he deserves. They point out a fascinating pattern. After facing Davis, his opponents often rise in fame and recognition, proof of Tank's impact on the sport. Fighters who were virtually unknown before sharing the ring with him suddenly find themselves in global conversations. This shows the level of influence Davis holds. His presence alone elevates careers and defines narratives. Critics who question the quality of his opposition are reminded that even those who lose to him gain massive attention. Analysts say Davis isn't just a knockout artist, he's a catalyst. Every fight he takes reshapes boxing's landscape, and every victory reinforces his position as one of the sport's true superstars.
Discussion in the boxing world about Gervonta Davis and Gervonta Davis, his resume, who he's going to fight, the competitors that he's going to fight. And every once in a while, something happens that proves that Gervonta Davis is the face of that. If he's not the face of boxing because people just don't want him to be that, man, he is real close to it, because other than Canelo Alvarez, and even consider Canelo Alvarez included, nobody in boxing has divisions circulating around him like Gervonta Davis does. And that was proved during this Lamont Roach versus Pitbull Cruz announcement for their pay-per-view. Just think about this. Gervonta Davis, they always say that Gervonta Davis has a poor resume, but yet Gervonta Davis, guys that fight Gervonta Davis, lose to Gervonta Davis, or get a draw to Gervonta Davis, can fight one another and make an anticipated pay-per-view between the two of them. Because that fight with Pitbull Cruz is a very, very popular fighter with Mexican fight fans. Lamont Roach got a lot of name exposure with black fight fans and Mexican fight fans and white fight fans, all with his draw that he got against Gervonta Davis. Now they believe that this is going to be able to be a profitable endeavor for a pay-per-view. Now, let me also tell you that Rolly Romero, who was somebody else that Gervonta Davis fought in the past, will be on a pay-per-view that's going to be successful, most likely, when he defends his WBC.
Boxer Stephen Fulton recently came to Davis's defense amid accusations that he's fighting only for money. Fulton passionately argued that every boxer deserves to secure their financial future after years of risking life and health in the ring. He reminded fans that Davis has already achieved greatness, capturing multiple world titles and delivering unforgettable performances. At this stage of his career, Fulton explained, it's perfectly reasonable for Davis to balance legacy and financial security. Fighters' careers can end in an instant, so making strategic choices isn't greed, it's wisdom. His statement struck a chord with fans and critics alike, reaffirming that Davis's decisions are those of a mature champion who has earned the right to control his own path.
Anybody in that position would have taken that fight, especially the payout. It's like, that's a no-brainer, but I understand. I still feel for Lamont. That's my boy. Like, he still want his rematch. But then when you be realistic about the money situation, you're changing your whole family life. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's people hate on it because they're not in that position. I'm not saying Lamont. I'm speaking like other boxers. Like, oh, he this for that. He's this. It's a side quest. It's a little side quest. Because what happened when Floyd and all these guys went on WWE, but then they get right back to what they're doing? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's another little side quest. I'm all for people just getting their money, so get the best, make the most that you can out of this entertainment world. Because, I mean, I don't know. I would have done it as far as the money aspect, because none of us would deny that money. They talking like they would, none of them would deny that money.
Analyst Luke Thomas approached the situation from a different perspective. While he praised Davis's extraordinary skill and knockout power, he noticed something unusual in Tank's demeanor this time around. During interviews and media appearances, Davis appeared unusually calm, perhaps even too calm. Thomas observed that Tank didn't exude the same fiery energy he's known for before big fights. To him, it seemed as though Davis viewed this matchup more as a business move than a passionate challenge. The hype surrounding Jake Paul might have caught his attention more than the fight itself. Yet Thomas was quick to add that even a slightly less motivated Davis remains an extremely dangerous opponent. His natural talent, timing, and experience are weapons that few fighters in the world can overcome, whether he's fired up or not.
So in that sense, it's a little bit different. It's not different in the sense of a boxer in his prime or relative prime straying off the path, but this one is not. It's not like someone else, in a similar weight. It's like completely the opposite, and so that makes it, I think, look and feel weird. And then on top of it, obviously, Gervonta's got other business to handle. He looked to me, Gervonta, absolutely, completely disinterested. Even at the beginning of this year, and dude, even at the pre-fight Lamont Roach stuff, Tank was talking about how much time he has left in boxing, which he was isn't much. The Lamont Roach fight, it blew up in his face, but Lamont Roach was cherry-picked. I think Tank thought, I'll just fight another guy from, the Mid-Atlantic area who's, remember Roach came up from 30 to 35 to fight him, and Tank thought he was just going to cruise, and then it blew up in his face, and, you're left with that. So, you're making a point about, he's got this obligation. That's true, but he was already fucking around. He was already taking opponents that, again, I think Roach showed everyone that was a mistake, but put yourself in Tank's mind. Tank was taking a fight against someone he was clearly, in his mind anyway, better than, and was just going to cruise. So he was already in that state. Then you marry that with statements like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this, and blah, 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 and, I'm worried about going to therapy because it'll take away my competitive edge. And
while some fans label this fight a money grab, others see it as something deeper, a personal mission for Gervonta Davis. He's not just fighting Jake Paul for clout or recognition. He's fighting to prove that true boxing skill still matters in an age dominated by social media spectacle. A win here would reinforce the message that authentic talent, dedication, and discipline can outshine internet fame. Davis understands that the audience tuning in isn't just made up of die-hard boxing fans, it also includes millions of Jake Paul's followers. For him, this bout is a chance to restore balance, to show that real fighters, not influencers, define combat sports. If he wins convincingly, it would send a thunderous message across the boxing world: genuine skill will always triumph over manufactured fame.
In this particular in the press conference, and you can just look at him and tell, no, this dude he's gonna get this money for sure, because there's so much money out there to be had. But Jake Paul better be not playing around, man. Not get cute, not play any games, don't hit him in the back of the head, don't rabbit punch him, don't do any of that stuff, man, because Mike Tyson. First of all, Mike Tyson, a lot of people think Mike Tyson was pulling punches on Jake Paul, and a lot of people think that Anderson Silva was pulling punches on him too. You're not going to have a little Gervonta out there pulling punches on you, man, if you're out there playing games. So, I don't like the fight at all. However, as far as it being an entertaining situation, I almost guarantee you that fight itself is going to be entertaining. That it's going to be something that you look at and you're going to say, man, everybody's going to watch it. Everybody's going to want to know what happens in it. But at the same time, it's kind of like what people think, when you see a car crash. Like, you're driving down the road and all of a sudden the traffic gets heavy and you're like, man, I'm going to be in traffic for a long time. And then you drive forward a little bit and then you see, oh man, this is some accident on the other side of the road, and everybody just slowing down to watch. That's the type of entertainment that you can expect from this fight between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. There's going to be a lot of people watching it, but I gotta say, man, you really can't blame the guy on what he's doing. And there's a lot of criticism flying on Gervonta Davis. It's not Gervonta Davis's fault that boxing took this turn.
Never one to hold back, Charleston White shared his brutally honest view of Jake Paul's boxing career, calling it more entertainment than sport. According to White, Jake has built an image, not a legacy. He believes that once Paul steps into the ring with a real champion like Gervonta Davis, the gap between a true boxer and a social media personality will be undeniable. White insists that Tank's reflexes, timing, composure, and years of experience fighting elite opponents will completely expose Jake's lack of authentic ring experience. He put it bluntly, fame can buy attention, but it can't buy skill. White's comments echo what many hardcore boxing fans already feel, that Davis operates on a level Jake Paul has never touched. And when they finally meet, the truth will become impossible to ignore.
Davis and Jake Paul fight. And what he said was, look, man, do not pick against Jake Paul, because he didn't believe that any of the fights that Jake Paul have had to date really have been a real thing. And that the boxing world is looking for that great WHITE hype. And Jake Paul is going to be that guy, even though he really can't do it in a real boxing match. So he was basically reflecting and saying that he, you know, the saying where they say, believe a half of what you hear, half of what you see, and none of what you hear. He adjusted it to say, don't believe anything you hear and anything you say, anything that you hear and anything that you see. And honestly, man, when it comes to internet boxing, YouTube boxing, and what people say is going on in the media, without a doubt, I think Charleston White is 100% right about that. Don't believe anything you hear. Don't believe anything you see. Wait to see how things play out, and ultimately everything will come out in the wash. Well, going into this fight with Gervonta Davis, I had my concerns about the fight because of he's the same type of reasoning that Charleston White used, except for mine is slightly different. I don't think that either one of these guys are going to try to do too much damage to each other. Number one, because if it's scripted, which more than likely to an extent it will be, Gervonta Davis is not going to put himself in a situation where Jake Paul is going to actually be able to hurt him.
That wraps up today's coverage. The stage is set, the tension is building, and the world waits to see what happens when Gervonta Tank Davis steps into the ring to face Jake Paul. Stay tuned, because when that bell rings, the world will be watching.